Previously on the Seventh Valkyrie, the city of Rene is on edge, and none more so than BC. With packages coming from Krona and fresh off of her harrowing threats to Cyrus, is the festival her chance to finally blow off some steam? Find out now on the Seventh Valkyrie. Chapter 21. Like No One's Watching. The 17th day of winter. Dusk. BC. There was a buzz in the hallways of Velvet that evening as BC made her way up to the top floors, alternating between snacking on a basket of fruity sweets and drinking some absurdly expensive wine that tasted like very little to her. Most of the doors in Velvet were closed, their residents already down on the waterfront for the festival. But BC popped into the few open doors she could find to offer more wine out of the bottle and toss pastries like a street vendor who didn't exactly understand how money worked. The pastries were just another way that Krona was reminding her he was watching, and BC had decided to treat them accordingly. Fudge the Woolymons hung closely at her heels and made sure to track down any pastries that missed their mark. Eventually, BC kicked open the cracked door to Kalechi's suite, rolling into the room in full voice with Fudge at her heels. "What's up, bitches? Mama's got some candy and booze, and I won't take no for an answer." Neither Kalechi, who sat in the mirror teasing her black braids as she decided on a hairstyle, nor Lau, who sat on the bed nursing a big cup of something strong, were particularly surprised at BC's entrance. They'd probably heard her do the same a few doors down. But Lau was quick on the draw to call for a pastry, mumbling through a full mouth to Cal that she'd saved her one, and then downing the whole thing in a few bites. She flagged at BC to hand over the wine, and swished down the rest of the pastry, before slapping the spare crumbs off of her gorgeous red and gold dress while she marveled at the wine's quality. "Now what, are these treats from your secret admirer, or did Waver finally decide to apologize?" Lau said, getting up from the bed and giving BC a hug. BC spun Lau around and looked her up and down. The short dress she was wearing was beautifully woven and tapered down to a short ruffled swirl just above Lau's knees, leaving enough to the imagination, but not too much. BC then pulled Lau back into a hug, and Lau giggled. "You know, usually the only person I let look me over like that without paying is Cal," Lau said in a false whisper. "Though I do accept in-kind donations." BC had a mischievous look for her and then leaned in nose to nose, close enough that Lau actually started closing her eyes for a kiss. But as always, BC booped her on the nose and swished past her. "Gah, you fucking tease," Lau said, as BC made her way over towards Kalechi. Kalechi was also in shades of red, which was her favorite color when she was out of velvet uniform, and the Cheruvian woman was still wrestling with several iterations of her hairstyle. BC draped herself over Kalechi. "Girl, you do know you're gonna look like a queen regardless, right?" BC waved the bottle of wine. "Girl, don't you think I know that?" Kalechi reached out and snagged the bottle, chugging from it and then marveling at its quality as well before getting back to her business, still teasing the braids. It's just there's a difference between looking like a bad bitch and the baddest bitch." BC gave Cal a kiss on the cheek. "Well, unfortunately, I think you'll have to settle for second baddest bitch," BC said, standing up and heading back towards the door. "Because I'm going out tonight, and I'm not going to be in combat boots." The playful banter felt familiar and fun, and the girls traded barbs as BC breezed from the room, a devilish look on her face. But as she disappeared around the door into the hallway, her cheeky grin faded. It seemed darker out here, and as BC downed the rest of the wine, the exceedingly expensive vintage tasted like water about half a mile downstream of a vineyard. She left the wine and the basket outside of May's room, leaving Fudge to feast on the last of the pastries as she entered the suite. Cyrus and May were both out on May's terrace, enjoying an aromatic meal surrounded by candles, fine bottles of wine, and fiery crystals. May had a deep green, long-sleeved dress on, and Cyrus had been cleaned up nice, with his hair coiffed and trimmed down to a sleek, well-kempt style, and he wore a black, elegant jacket with gold trim. Beyond them, it was well past sundown, but even though the breeze blew steadily off the ocean, there were no clouds, and the stars shone in the sky, rivaled only in their brightness by the glow of the waterfront in the foreground. Together, Cyrus and May were the very picture of an elegant woman and her paramour, which is exactly what May would have wanted to show any watching eyes. Hopefully, May wouldn't need to do any more than look the part of lovers to convince anyone paying attention. Cyrus practically sparkled with virginity. "Hey, I didn't interrupt anything, did I?" BC said, calling out as she stepped through the lounge towards the terrace. "Nothing that we can't pick up later," May said. "I was just telling Cyrus of our plan for a romantic trip south one day, and what he might expect in the lands beyond Edera." BC quickly picked up that they were speaking in code about Cyrus's nearing departure. "Have you ever been there, BC?" Cyrus asked. Is it true that there are mountains so high that you can't even see the peaks if you're standing at the bottom of them? And that there are people who fly on giant lizards and lots of places where people can just use their gifts whenever they want?" "Yeah, I've heard about places like that," BC said. "But, to be honest, I've only been past the wasteland a couple of times." "Oh my gosh, well, why did you come back?" It's just, I don't know, the way May talks about it, it seems like a way better place to be, especially for people like us. "Well, no matter how nice it might sound, for me, this is home, and I got a lot of business left to attend to." Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry, no, I don't know, it just seems like... May, you better be careful about filling his head with too much good news about the freelance. You and I both know it's not exactly the land of wine and pastries. No, certainly not. And I would not want you to think differently, Cyrus. Still, there is no shame in looking to the future with bright eyes. It's an adventure we will take someday, my love. She rubbed the Valgardian's head, and Cyrus beamed. Their loving evening and sordid romance may have been staged, but Cyrus's adoration for the timeless wild woman certainly wasn't an act. May let herself smile for a second and sipped her glass before turning to BC. Speaking of wine and pastries, May said, I smell both on you. Another basket from your secret admirer. BC kicked herself. Damn wolves and their sense of smell. May had been more open about exactly how perceptive she was recently, but it still took some getting used to. BC rolled her eyes. Yeah, same one. Guy just won't take no for an answer. May nodded, ruffling Cyrus's hair affectionately, deep in thought. But come on, May. This is, it's not the time to be thinking about all that. He's hard to deal with, but he's barely been an inconvenience recently. I mean, since Eclipse, what? All he's done is the gift baskets. BC, you know better than I do that this secret admirer has a tendency to do the unexpected. After a moment, May stood. Cyrus, can you wait out here for a moment? When I return, I'll tell you all about the southern forests, where the trees grow so tall they are shrouded in the clouds, and it's possible to travel from town to town to town without ever touching the forest floor. Oh, yeah, no, I can wait. That's, thank you. Cyrus happily returned to looking out at the waterfront, and BC could tell his imagination was already racing. After all, he was sipping on his wine happily and practically wiggling with excitement. BC followed May inside, where the older woman closed the balcony door. "May, you know the Freelands are gonna eat him alive," BC murmured as they stood at May's bar. BC reached out and grabbed a glass for some whiskey. "I mean, maybe, but it's just a feeling." "Perhaps. What do the Edderins call this south again? The Wildlands? Perhaps it is an accurate description, but he will be in good hands, and the boy has made it this far already. He may be more resilient than you give him credit for." BC finished pouring a glass of whiskey neat and slammed it, then poured a second. "Well, either way, not my problem," BC said as she lifted the second glass to her lips. "Cyrus will be gone soon, and then you and I can get back to normal. BC, you and I both know that your secret admirer sending you gifts is a far cry from normal, no matter how unassuming the gifts." BC shrugged, muttering something about the phrase normal-ish, and lifted the glass, but May reached out and put an arm on her shoulder. "My child, could you take it just a little bit easier than usual on the drinks and the drugs until he's gone? Consider it a favor to me. I just rest more assured knowing that you are sharp between the ears and have a clear snout." "What, May, you think this is gonna send me over the edge? Come on, you ought to know me better." "BC, you ought to know me better. And maybe yourself too. I wouldn't ask if this wasn't important." BC took a sip of the whiskey, just a sip, and then made a show of putting it down. All right. I will absolutely make sure that I'm in control tonight. It shouldn't be too hard. I'm just going down to patrol, gonna keep an eye on the girls, break a few hearts. I don't know, probably read something dirty and go to bed." May tilted her head. "You're in high spirits. You never joke about your own sex life, only that of others." "I don't know what you're talking about, May. Every girl has needs, even if you need to take care of them in private. Wait, May, just to check. Getting used to this whole wolf thing. You can't hear us, down the hall, right? Right? If I wanted to, yes, I absolutely could. But I consider that about as rude as kicking open the door with a bowl of nuts and watching. You are safe with your privacy and your own personal needs, as you described them." BC nodded distantly, then picked up the whiskey and drank it. Unsatisfied by May's answer, she drained the rest of it. "BC, come on. You live in a pleasure house populated by gifted. Did you think there would be any form of complete privacy here?" "Yeah. It's a little different knowing that you, May, can be listening. You know what? Okay, we're not going to talk about this anymore. I'm going to go on patrol. At least out there, I know what I'm showing off and to who I'm showing it." "BC, you are not seriously upset about this." No, May, I'm just fucking with you, okay?" BC gave May a winning smile and a big hug, but as she turned away, May grabbed BC on the shoulder one more time, spinning BC around to face her. For a second, May looked deep into BC's eyes, as if searching for something. "BC, please be careful. For me, you have been incredibly patient, and as soon as the Valguardian is safely delivered from the city, you have all of my focus and attention to tackle this." BC gave her another smile and started to step away. "May, please. I understand. Of all people, you know I do. Now come on. I'll let you get back to giving that Valguardian all of your focus and attention. And, whatever else you decide to give him. I'm not joking right now. Promise me, BC. Please, promise me." BC put both of her hands on May's shoulders and looked into her eyes, putting her forehead against May's. I promise, May. I'm gonna keep it under control. Want to know what happens next? Join us on Patreon to become a hero of Edera and get early access to episodes along with bonus features, director's commentary, and the full Tab to archive. You can also find other ways to support us at the links in the description, and we will see you next week.